Well, hello and welcome to the latest Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce Q&A. And for those of you who've been following this series throughout the coronavirus situation, it's a special edition today. And I'm delighted that I'm once again joined by Chamber patron Doug Wright. And it's special because while we've done a number of these Q&As over Zoom, in fact, the first one was 5 months ago today, we've actually been able to sort of sit here in person at Doug's restaurant up at Bassett's Pole, just outside of Birmingham. Doug, great to see you and thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's great to be back on home turf. I think, when we started this, it seems an awfully long time ago. Things have really moved on at a pace, and I guess this is the final chapter, really, bringing you into the restaurant and talking about how the business is recovering.
Well, that's the plan, isn't it? The first Q&A, we were talking about furloughing staff, and you'd closed all 20 of your restaurants, and sort of very suddenly and in response to the sort of developing situation. And today you've got all 20 restaurants back up and running, open 24 hours. The drive-throughs are running. People are able to eat back inside in the restaurant as well. And I suppose, really, just give us an update and tell us about the situation of and the sort of state that your business is in right now.
Sure. Well, I think it's fair to say that it was certainly easier closing than it was reopening. I mean, closing, it was no notice. You shut tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we shut. We went through all the people issues, which we talked about throughout this series. So to bring you up to speed, we have gradually reopened the estate.
Yeah.
We added one service platform at a time. So in other words, if you take a restaurant like this, we started off by doing drive-through.
Yeah.
Got the drive-through right, and then we did takeaway, McDelivery, which is applicable in the majority of our restaurants.
Yeah.
And then eat in, albeit on a limited basis, with all the COVID compliance. So we've got all the restaurants up and running. We are delighted at the state of progress. It's certainly, we're well within the recovery phase. We are there or thereabouts on operating hours.
Yeah.
Menu is sort of 85% there or thereabouts, but it is a big challenge running a business with everything that's happening that you can't influence around COVID.
There's still so much uncertainty, isn't there? I mean, how long did it take you then from when you started to reopen the first restaurant to get to the point where all 20 are up and running? I know, as you say, it was a gradual process, which I suppose has reflected the careful and appropriate way that yourself and McDonald's have handled this whole situation, really.
Yeah, I think corporate McDonald's have been fabulous.
Yeah.
That in terms of reopening, they assisted with that. They left it to us as individual operators to decide which restaurants opened in which order. And I guess we just really took it through the lens of a customer.
Yeah.
And the busier places, the built-up places, we reopened first. And we did it over about 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah.
The risky piece came at the end. That everybody in Great Britain knows right now that the high street is difficult, very, very difficult. So opening the first 17 was a lot easier than the last 3.
And that's because they had drive-through, whereas the final 3 were high street only. So it's all about eating in the restaurant, isn't it, really?
Yeah,
Serving
food. Very much. It was exactly as you say. And obviously where you have a town centre which is pedestrianised and doesn't operate McDelivery,
Yeah.
it's hard to define what your customer base is going to be. And I guess it's that sort of old adage of supply and demand that to start with, people were very concerned
Yeah.
about coming out.
Yeah.
The world's changed, so we all know that everything can come in a van
Yes.
or a motorbike. So people coming back to town centres is going to take time, and it's going to have to be sort of framed around being experiential.
Yeah.
And right now, people would rather have the safety of either eating at home or nipping through the drive-thru.
So you're still seeing the in-restaurant volumes being sort of down on what they were before?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
In terms of the volumes are returning to a good state in the drive-thru
Yeah.
business, and it's certainly the service platform that is really got upwards trajectory and huge growth. is McDelivery.
Yeah.
The whole McDelivery piece is huge.
Yeah.
You know, people play into that sort of words of customization and personalization. So if you bring that into McDonald's, that's saying people want to order when they want, how they want. And McDelivery is probably 5 times busier than it was 2 years ago.
And we've talked a lot, I know, about the journey that McDonald's have been going on, and you'd been sort of really leading the charge on that. And I guess in some ways, I wouldn't say good timing, but thank goodness that you'd started that in the sort of couple of years prior to COVID hitting, and you've got the ability to do it rather than starting from scratch.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable. A sort of real live example would be that 7 miles down the road in Lichfield, we've had a restaurant which we've operated since 1986.
Yeah.
And its sales have been pretty much flat for the last 10 years as people sort of decouple towns, city centres from their lives, go to retail parks. The Lichfield city centre has been incredibly quiet. So our sales pattern has pretty much flattened and been the same for about the last 12 years.
Yeah.
4 weeks ago, we added McDelivery. And McDelivery last week accounted for 49%, almost half of their business.
Wow.
So it's that thing about you've got to be resilient, and you've got to, at the end of the day, you've got to make sure that your offering is what the customer wants. And at the end of the day, it's got to be customer validated.
Yeah.
And that's a classic example of taking something that was a traditional high street restaurant, but by adding an additional service platform, it's taken your customer base beyond the town or the city centre, and all of a sudden you're delivering to houses within a mile and a half, and it's really, really popular.
Yeah.
It's so different, and I had the experience of last week. I decided to be a mystery shopper,
Right.
for McDelivery. So I said to Kate, we're going to go out for lunch. So I think she was pretty excited. So we got in the car and we drove just outside of Lichfield, stopped and ordered via the Uber Eats app.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing. So we're sitting in a car park. We ordered, and I said to Kate, what would be an acceptable time for you? And it arrived in just under 9 minutes.
So you could order it to a car, so you don't even have to be to a fixed residential.
We all sat in Magnet's car park on the outskirts of Lichfield, and a guy came along, COVID compliant, left it on the bonnet, and we were gone. And so from the start to the end, it was 9 minutes.
That's amazing. It shows, I suppose, how if you innovate, there can be opportunity there, and also to always be wary about when you offer to take anyone out on a lunch date, I suppose, to make sure you know where you're going. Now, Doug, throughout the sort of the Q&As that we've done, when we've been talking about how you've reacted and responded to the whole COVID situation, there's been a lot around your staff, your people, and how you've communicated with them, and so you sort of initially sort of closed everything and furloughed thousands of people, and then we've talked about how you've kept in touch with them during the whole sort of lockdown period, and then started to bring people back into work. I mean, how has that been in the last sort of month or so, and how have people responded to the opportunity to get back to work, and I suppose doing so safely, so you can make sure that people feel comfortable serving customers again?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great challenge.
Yeah.
But when we reopened, we absolutely wanted to be a brand that did the right thing and always did the right thing. So in terms of equating that to people, it was about using corporate videos and encouraging people to see what they were returning to, and how it was going to be. And it's temperature check.
Yeah.
Everybody who comes in, you people would have been temperature checked today.
Yeah, it felt very sort of safe
very
and
sensible.
Secure. Yeah.
And then it's about using PPE.
Yeah.
So at work all the time with PPE on, having the right amount of screens, and just making sure that people look after each other. That before we opened, if you go back to March, the week before, we pretty much shut on a record day. Everybody wanted their last McDonald's before lockdown. And McDonald's then, our focus was a lot more about speed of service. a lot more operational metrics.
Yeah.
And that's been, the cornerstone of our success, in the UK and around the world. But what we had to do was, when we reopened, it was very different. It was a completely different culture.
Yeah.
And what that meant, was that safety first, and everything went through the lens of safety. So for all of us, it was very, very different. And two sort of live examples would be when you had a queue in the drive-through.
Yeah.
Before we'd shut, it would be, you've got to get rid of the queue, quicker, faster. Whereas now, it's endorsing and running a culture where it's fine to keep people waiting.
Yeah.
As long as the staff and the customers are safe and it's COVID compliant. And that's the difficult piece, making sure that you keep a reality check and just keep reviewing the process. But it's something you have to talk about every day.
And that's a big cultural change, isn't it? And I suppose the question would be, do you think how will that land when we come through this? And again, our crystal ball doesn't tell us when that is. But do you think there's going to be sort of some fundamental changes then that will have been lessons learned, improvements adopted as a result of this?
Yeah, I mean, you always look to take things out of something awful. And then certainly from this pandemic, we are learning as we go along.
Yeah.
That, it is very different, and it is very strange having so many screens. So that there's a screen between every person on the production line. There's a screen, there's a block. It's so many different parts of the restaurant.
Yeah.
So I think that we will adapt. I think that the face masks are hot and uncomfortable, but they are so important.
Yeah.
So how long before we migrate out of this, who knows? But one thing's for sure, that everything is now through the safety lens, and that is so different.
And that's been so clear, actually, that in effect, yourself and McDonald's as the corporation have been very clear. It's about your people, your staff, your customers doing the right thing, and then the sort of the business side follows, and you're almost guided, aren't you? Now, one thing I wanted to ask you was about the Eat Out to Help Out initiative that was in operation throughout August. I mean, what sort of impact did that have on your business? Did it help? Was it a success? What was your take on that?
Well, the headline is it's been remarkable.
Right.
In terms of to sort of revitalise, re-energise, and to get people back out. It was a very smart initiative. It was tough, very, very tough, as each week it gained momentum, and that meant more people visiting, more people wanting to and having to eat inside to get the discount.
Right, yeah.
So a typical restaurant would be back to about 42-43% of its seating capacity.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure how well thought it was through, but you had to get a seat to be able to get the discount.
It wasn't eligible for takeout,
no,
was it?
And it wasn't in the drive-through, delivery. And I think, what the Chancellor was trying to do, and did it very, very well, landed it, was he was trying to get people to have the confidence to come back out.
Yeah.
But I've read some horror stories with other brands about, customers refusing to wait and everything else. But it was tough in McDonald's, but I would say that in the main, it was customers were very helpful.
Yeah.
And from a business point of view, we're reviewing the numbers right now, but it felt like, that the business had gone up by about 20% over a normal Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday.
Wow, so that's a really an important impact, having been closed for a number of months. I know, again, it all helps, doesn't it, as you sort of, fully go about recovering from the lockdown period.
I think what was really lovely about it as well was to see people in the restaurants.
Yeah.
Because part of McDonald's is always, the great piece has always been able to see your customers, to enjoy a healthy relationship with them, and the please, the thank yous, and thanks for coming. And we've all missed all that sort of human interaction, and it's very different. So to welcome guests back into the restaurants was a real sort of lovely time. And obviously this kickstart from the Chancellor, it gave people a reason to come out. So it was a short-term tactic, 13 days in August.
Yeah.
But to me, as a local businessman, it certainly worked, and it certainly was compelling
Yeah.
to bring people out.
No, we're still very much in the whole COVID crisis or the sort of situation, and where we are sat here today, we're still seeing infection rates rise. We're seeing that across Europe as well right now, and so there's lots of unknowns and challenges and uncertainty still. I mean, for you, what's the biggest couple of challenges that are facing you now as you say continue to sort of rebuild the business and sort of win back what you'd had to park when you were closed for that period?
I mean, the biggest ongoing number one challenge at the moment is being the champion and the gatekeeper of safety.
Right.
That is so important. We had a call this morning, and we can't afford any complacency at all.
Yeah.
That we've got very strong, robust systems and processes in place, and it's just constantly talking about them, the importance of them, and they all make sense. That if everybody does it and properly, it's going to help protect. So safety is definitely a big challenge. The second challenge, which is a wonderful one to have, is capacity. Managing capacity. We've got less people working in our kitchens.
Yeah.
So obviously it takes longer to assemble orders. So that itself is a challenge, but it's almost like a backhanded compliment that the fact that we are being stress tested and so on shows that customers want our product.
Yeah.
And they want to visit us. But we have got to make sure that that's all done. We've done an awful lot of hard work to get back to where we are.
Yeah.
And it's just vital that we don't go too fast. We don't keep adding more menu items. I mean, you always find out in sort of times of adversity what kind of franchisor you have a franchise with. And McDonald's have been brilliant.
Good.
They had the whole sort of collaboration, and it's not just been McDonald's franchisees, corporate McDonald's. It's been a three-way process, and they've really brought the suppliers along with us.
Yeah, such a key part of the business, aren't they?
When you look at closing down, the first thing you forget is that when you need to restart, you need to restart the engine, and that begins back at the suppliers. So it took us a couple of weeks to come back in, have everything serviced, talk to all the employees, hold meetings. It's just like starting a business up again, and I can just imagine from a supplier point of view that same issues with furloughing, bringing people back in, having social distancing in their own environments. But we are so lucky that we have a world-class supply chain.
And that's where relationships are so important, aren't they?
Very much so.
And Doug, I was going to ask, you talked about sort of safety, and you're right, it's so important, and no one can get complacent right now, and that's a message. I know at the Chamber we're continuing to constantly push out there, because that's how we're going to come through this. One thing I just wanted to ask was about, because you've got a 24/7 operation, and I think you were the first franchisee, were you, to go back to 24/7 opening hours. I mean, does that present particular challenges as well, or is it that the team are really well drilled and are used to that?
In terms of why we opened and started to do it very slowly, we opened when we reopened, we started at 11 o'clock.
Right.
And we went through till 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then we went through longer, then we went through till 10 o'clock. And we did it in a controlled way, but it kind of became easier once we became available 24 hours.
Right.
So we had to do it because we got limited stock, suppliers catching up, matching volumes.
It's part of that patient sort of reopening.
Yeah, but we got to a stage where we just sat down, and whether we were the very first, I'm unsure, but we were a very early adopter of 24 hours. And we kind of thought, we need to do this for our customers, and we need to do it for our employees so that we can get everyone back to work.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of, we got some people on furlough, some people on holiday, and we just thought we need to remove all the barriers and give ourselves the very best chance of success and setting ourselves up for success. So it was a masterstroke looking back, but conversely, it was not something we could do too early.
No, good, thank you. And obviously, and it's great to be sat here and to see the restaurant, functioning and operating. And I think it's testament, to that sense of getting back to business, and it's something that we all have to be doing. Now, I mean, I know over the past few months, but you've also been busy outside of the day job, and as many people will know, you're chairman of the local Ronald McDonald House charity here in Birmingham. Now, every autumn, you normally run a big fundraising dinner, which I know raises, I think last year was about £250,000, which is crucial for funding this really, really important facility in the city. Not able to do that in person this year, but you have got some plans. Maybe just tell us a little bit around what you got planned to help raise funds for the charity this year.
Yeah, I mean, RMHC is something that in difficult times like this COVID, it's been wonderful to keep the facility open to allow people who are staying at the Birmingham Children's Hospital to stay with us. It's been very difficult. We've had to operate on limited capacity. And again, like anything else, that one of the first victims of something like this is that people aren't able to support charities in the same way, whether it's corporates, individuals, that you have to protect what you've got at home first. So the charity's taken a big hit. We will probably be slower in opening new homes, but in terms of this year, we won't be having a gala dinner, and that itself just feels ridiculously strange. Like, we were all there last year. We raised £253,710, which in simple terms is a quarter of the income we need every year to keep the lights on and the house open 365, 24/7. So this year we are going to try and emulate what the Chamber have done so brilliantly with a couple of events, with the awards evening, with Future Faces. We're going to do a virtual event.
Okay.
And really strange, very difficult, but why we want to do it is we want to try and check in with the people who have been such wonderful supporters to us, and we want to give them an update on what they raised last year, what we've used the money for, and we're going to hear from just a very, very brave family whose little boy has been with us, been over at the Children's Hospital, with us for a very, very long time. So this virtual event is on Thursday, the 12th of November.
Right, date for the diary?
Yeah, it's a compelling date for the diary.
Yeah.
It's going to be about an hour long. We've been avid viewers of your events, trying to get that little piece that will make it right for us. But ultimately, we're going to put on an event where we can just speak to people about the work we've been doing. We're going to interview a mystery guest, he or she will be very exciting. We'll have 15 minutes of their time. We're going to have some local artists. We're going to have, in fact, I shouldn't tell you everything.
No, don't spoil all the surprises.
We're going to have an action-packed hour.
Great.
And we'll see where it takes us. But I think what we're looking for is, it's not going to be about so much fundraising. It's more about, advocacy, updating our supporters, and sort of almost just maintaining that link between us rather than waiting 2 years. Who knows if we can have an event next year, but we will try very, very hard to have one.
Well, look, we will certainly look forward to that, and the Chamber, we're big supporters of the house, and look forward to that. And then the final thing I just wanted to touch on as well. You say you've been watching the Chamber events very closely. I know that obviously in the last couple of months, you've also stepped up and joined the Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce Board as a board member. So congratulations on that, and maybe just a few words, Doug, about the sort of what you see as the Chamber's role in supporting and helping to sort of really drive the business community, certainly in the best of times, but in particular, I guess, in the current situation that we're all living through.
Yeah, I mean, I would best liken the Chamber to a club, and it's a club, a business club that everyone needs to be part of. That, when times are difficult, I remember in 2002 when I started up as a franchisee, I would have loved to have been part of something like this, because I don't think, ever has Connect, Support and Grow ever been so applicable.
Yeah.
In terms of whether you're a one-man band, one-lady band, whatever it is, yeah, I think that you can share best practices. If you take what the Chamber have had over the last 5 months, if you didn't know about furloughing, or you didn't know about grants or support, I think the Chamber have been mercurial in terms of the systems and processes that policy have put together. So for me, being asked to join such an institution that I think has been around for 200 plus years, it's really, really important that everyone gets together, and almost it's one of those things that once you get into, you kind of realise that somebody else has got the same issues, or somebody else needs the same help or whatever. So to be part of steering us and navigating us through post-pandemic is exciting, because right now people need each other's help.
Absolutely.
I think that's what the Chamber will give. So yeah, delighted to be part of it, and hopefully I can positively, and not disruptively, but positively think about different things that we can do going forwards under your leadership.
No, thank you, Doug. And I think to wrap up there, I mean, you said it yourself there about sharing best practice, and again, thank you for joining us throughout this this pandemic and sharing examples of how you've been managing through. I know we've had loads of feedback, and people have found it very informative and useful. As you say, that sense that other people are going through this as well. So that's been great. It's fantastic to see you in person today, and to be back inside one of the restaurants. Hopefully next time we do it, we won't need to be the 2 meters apart. And but as we say, we don't know what lies ahead. But what we can do, I think, is try to keep taking those small steps forward.
Yep.
Keep sharing amongst our business community, and keep supporting each other. So Doug, thank you for your support, and congratulations on getting all of the restaurants back up and running today, and doing it so safely and effectively.
Yep. Thank you. Great to see you.